I will let us all have a brief round of introduction, and then we will get right into it. But before that, I would like you to picture something. Anyone in the room who has watched The Beekeeper, the movie? Yeah? Beekeeper. It has nothing to do with bees. Does it? What is it about? Oh, fantastic. Standard. Good. Do you have a microphone? So you can continue. Yeah, yeah.
So it's about Jason Statham,
Mm-hmm.
who's an ex security officer
Mm-hmm.
who is now retired and is into beekeeping
Mm-hmm.
until somebody interferes with the hive, literally, I mean, and figuratively.
Mm.
And so there was this whole, intriguing scene of him now trying to track down people in the hive. Yeah.
Mm.
But Jason Statham was there for sure. I remember him.
That's the same point of reference. It's very important to her that Jason Statham was there, but it's even more important that it's a cybersecurity movie rather than a war movie.
Yes.
Because it's about how a retired teacher in the middle of nowhere got an attack and it turned her life upside down. I'm touching on this because today we're going to be speaking about a very interesting topic. It's about smarter systems, better cities, unleashing IoT for infrastructure that works. And I added there that is secure. Picture this. You are at an airport. I believe most of us here have been in a plane. Scenario one, you are, when me and Prof. Munavu here used to be young, when you go to the airport, if your flight is late, you will go in and ask, wait, what time is my flight? What time is my flight? And they say, no, it's 1 hour late, just relax. Oh, it's 3 hours late, just sit down. It's 4 hours late. If you like, you can go back home. Then now picture this, you're at an airport and all the screens are blue, right? You go to the counter, they have no idea what is happening. You try to ask, they don't have any idea what is happening, something that happened, a while back when we had the blue screen of death. Now picture another scenario where not only the airport screens are blue, but you can hear that flight so and so crashed in the middle of nowhere, another flight crashed in the middle of nowhere. You can hear that there's traffic accidents across the street. It's just chaos. That's another movie. It's called Zero Day on Netflix. I hope you guys will watch. Now we're talking about smart cities today, and I've started from scenario 1, scenario 2, and scenario 3. What used to be, what is now, and where we are heading to, where our cities are interconnected. Traffic lights, like Sela said, traffic lights are connected with with hospitals, with the police, with schools. So if you have one point of failure, then everything is not working within a city, and this can cause loss of lives, loss of livelihoods, and so much more. So the conversation we're having here today is about IoT, which is Internet of Things, and how we can build smart cities that work. I'm going to start our introduction from right. I'm going to jump Prof. I'm going to go into the lady. I'm going to go straight to the lady. Lucy, I briefly introduced you, but you can introduce yourself briefly. We go around, then we will finish with Prof after Saleh, and then we're gonna go right into it.
All right. Thank you, Evelyn. So my name is Lucy Mbogwa. I'm an account executive with Cisco. I support our customers in financial services as well as some key customers in public sector. Thank you.
My name is Alan Kipsang. I work at Safaricom as the cluster lead for digital IT. So what I do is I build solutions, part of them including Internet of Things.
A good evening. My name is Agnes Limo. I'm the CEO of Vilcom Networks. I'm fondly also known as Mama Fiber. Vilcom is an acronym actually for Village Communication. So we provide internet solutions and other technology solutions here in Kenya.
Great. I believe I'm audible. Yeah, sure. Joseph Wanjohi, Enterprise Director at Airtel. Really happy to be here. I'm sure it will be an interesting discussion.
My name is Salah. I just do myself.
Yes, Prof.
My name is Rafael Monavo. I'm the current chair of a smart city in Kenya for Contra Technopolis.
Thank you. You should have said the only smart city in sub-Saharan.
Only one.
I rest my case.
We are not talking about a smart village. We are talking about a smart city. By the way, we don't want to replace some of these things. We here, we keep on repeating things like smart city, smart city. Periodically think of a smart village. Can the village be smart?
Yes.
We keep on, it's a dream. Sometimes I dream a lot of things. Because I look at that, I also say connected, connected. Then I remember those days when you had conjoined twins. So why didn't you say connected twins? You say conjoined. So it's conjoined Africa. It's united. It is joined. You can't separate it. When you separate it, you destroy them. For joining is very important. But what I like is you talked about a film called what? But if you haven't read or seen a movie known as The Constant Gardener, please, you have Constant Gardener, please look for it. Why do I say that? It's because this was a particular lady, a professor somewhere in, I don't want to mention where, who came to Africa and she was looking for the cure of a particular disease. And she went and she bumped into some old men, traditional healers. And she was given this drug for curing a particular disease. But the companies, how many of you work for pharmaceutical? So that I don't shoot myself in pursuit. No. Particular cancer. But there was a company that was making billions of dollars selling fake drugs. So she went, when she went back to the country and she said, there is this cure for this particular thing, you know what happened? They now look for her. Who? To finish her. Please read that. It's a fantastic book. The Constant Gardener. And I think it was set up in Kenya. Can I say something about smart cities? If you don't mind, yes. You know, sometimes we talk about things and we think it's theory. But smart cities or smart villages or smart life is not a dream. It is a reality. It can be done, and it's being done now in Kenya. Many years ago in 1968, I was in a university known as Stanford University. And right next to Stanford, there was a town known as Palo Alto. Actually, they were calling it East Palo Alto. Okay? And Omanga, when you were there, they couldn't tell whether you are from California or not. You just look like any other person. So, and the IQ. So eventually, California, as a university, Stanford transformed California into the Silicon Savannah. Silicon Valley. And my mind is thinking too fast. Yeah, Valley. They transformed that state of California through technological innovation, through research, but most important, what surprised me is that in this particular university, they were bringing and pulling students from everywhere, and the researchers and focus. Very innovative. That's where your issues of computer just still. Now, come back home. We have been talking about transforming our lives. And one of the most important things when you transform lives of people or communities is don't transform them and then you sit and wait for them to change. No. Transform them and make them sustainable so that the quality of life that you have given people is sustainable. It has to be sustainable. Okay? So let us come up with an IoT which is sustainable. Okay? And we will be calling it SIoT. Not IoT. SIoT. Okay? Sustainable IoT. It's sustainable. And we have a place and we have an opportunity. It will require us to do rethinking of who we are and really projecting about the future that we are going to create ourselves. It is not a future that we inherit from others. In West Africa, they keep on talking about something. You look like you're from Ghana, by the way. Is it Ghana or?
This guy's Ghana. Ghana.
Ghana? You're from there? Oh, okay. So, you know, there are things that you don't ask if you are man, because how do you know you are not from Ghana? It's only your mother who lives there. Anyway, sure. Forgive me. So, I think we have had fantastic leadership in our country and in Israel, because we have leaders who imagined a future in which we live a comfortable life, where we had the securities that we need, where we had healthcare facilities, where we had the food we need, where we had transport, where we had a place to sleep comfortably, and so, and where we were friends, and where we were happy, a happy life. That to me is extremely important. And those factors are the ones that we must reflect about when we are talking about how do you create a sustainable and a livable city or village. And that is what Konza is about. And we cannot have Konza unless we have a way in which we are going to get data from everywhere. And it's not only the data that we think is necessary, the number of people, the number of cars passing, the number of this, it is much more, in my view. That's the data that will look when this lady comes and knocks in my house at night. There should be sensors that will tell me it's a lady who is knocking. And if there's a lot of data about it, they will even know your ID number, because they will have seen your face, and so on and so on. And then that sensor can tell me a lot of other things. Incidentally, That sensor can also tell me, and this lady loves coffee, not cocoa, or something like that. The food, so that when you come to my house, and I'm not persuading you to come, but should you come, okay, I will not ask you what is it that you want to bring and so on, okay? I will just be sitting there, and because my kitchen knows what you want, it will be done and it will be delivered. By the way, that I am just imagining Konza as we move forward. And the most important thing is we have to engage. Population, demographics is extremely important. Okay? Somebody, I think it was early today or sometime, was mentioning about the population of people and so forth and so on. So that is extremely important. Konza is 60 kilometers. Konza will be lying in the connecting route from Nairobi to Mombasa. People call it dual carriageway, expressway, whatever it is. It will be the safest place to live. Because when you enter Konza now, and you know it, okay? And by the way, one of the things about a smart place is that you have to have groups that can provide all the services that you need. And one of the most important services is education. So in Konza, you have facilities, universities, very unique. Konza is the only place where you have an open University of Kenya. Okay? And the man who runs it may be around here, I don't know. This gentleman here, okay? Konza is a very interesting place because it is where you have also a university that is dealing with science, technology, innovations, commercialization of ideas, and so forth, called KAIST, Kenya Advanced Institute of Science and Technology. Konza has what I call an unlimited pull effect. Unlimited pull effect means it's a town that attracts residences in an unlimited way. So if you come to Konza and you want to live in a single apartment, it will be available. If you come to Konza and you want to live in a mansion, it will be available. We will give you land to build it. Okay? So Konza is a fantastic facility. Yeah, I know. I am just about to finish. I am just about to finish. Konza, one of the things that are very important, and this is all has to do with data. Okay? And that is why IoT comes. Is never assume that things will always stay the same. That is why in Konza we reflect and we say, aha, we are getting electricity from KPLC. But supposing something happens, what do we do? So we say we must have alternative ways of getting power to ensure that should this power disconnect or go somewhere, the data will manipulate very fast and some other source of electricity will come. It is the only place where if you have water and the water disappears, but this one is not very good for drinking. Okay? By the way, Konza is a fantastic place. Very smart. If you take waste, you don't have to go and dump it somewhere. You just put it by the road. And there is a way in which that waste is recycled and it is pushed to a waste treatment plant. The water will be recycled, but it cannot be used for irrigation. The plastics and so on will be done and so on and so forth. Smart city. Using IoT. Using numbers, using data is extremely important. One of the things that we have done, which no other smart city has ever done, is, madam, never assume that we are the only creatures of God, created by God. God has created many things, and everything created by God has a reason to be here. So one of the things about Konza, I don't know if you have ever gone there, is, and this is part of smart city. No, I mean the facility I'm going to mention is they call it the wildlife corridor. So it is not a city that is fenced so that wild animals cannot come. No, because they are creations of God. And there is something that they contribute to our lives that we may take for granted. So basically what I'm saying is that as IoT and beneficiaries of IoT, we have, and we are still learning, it's a learning process. We have a fantastic database with backup. We believe in the value of data. Data. That is extremely important. We believe in the value of ensuring that we maintain an acceptable environment. That is very important. Living environment. Safety. Healthcare. Nowadays, I can be sitting here. I will not tell you about
Like you're sitting now.
like I'm
you're
sitting now.
Yes.
And you know, I have a phone here. If I press something, then I will get information on my phone on what drug I should take. What a beautiful thing. Healthcare provision. So basically, allow me to sit down. I am currently.
Clap for Prof.
I am sorry, but you know, this is the way life is. Yeah, this is the way life is. But let you and I discuss this thing about a smart village, okay? And sustainable IoT. Thank you very much.
So whenever we're going to take this offline and continue this discussion, we can have a brief round table. Drinks will be on Safaricom and Airtel. We can finally bring that truce to a close.
There will be wine.
Yeah, from Safaricom and Airtel.
But please, what we discuss here.
Okay. Karibu sana. So now I am thrown off. Where were we?
Talking about IoT, not me to input myself. You don't need to tune yourself unless you indicate what you do. And passion.
Okay, 8 hours later. Now, no, anytime, Prof. You see, there's a Swahili saying, palipo na wazee hapaharibiki jambo. Yeah, it means where there's young people like this, you sit and listen, you learn a thing or two. Their perspectives is very interesting. So now that you've introduced Konza, all that well, I don't know how to introduce myself. I'll just say, because I think half of the people in the room sort of have an idea of who I am. My names are Evelyn Olo, doctor in quotes. My initial background is medic, but also PhD. So a very interesting mix. I do work with the World Bank as a digital development consultant, and for a couple of good years I've worked in designing digital projects, and now I'm designing trade projects still in digital. I do that in consultancy and advisory role, and What I'm very much excited about is that it enables me then to also do private practice. I'm the principal advisor at 0 to 1 Advisory, where we do resource mobilization for the public sector and private sector. In English, that means raising funds and investing in startups, in scale-ups, and in government projects. Now, for my panel, since we've already done introduction, we're going to jump right into it. We had, written down a couple of questions that we're going to ask and they're going to answer, but Prof has thrown spanner into the work, so we're just going to flow in a good way, Prof. I love you. So the objectives we're going to achieve here in a very short minutes is we're going to explore how IoT is improving infrastructure in Africa's urban and peri-urban areas across sectors, discuss what it takes to build resilient and secure IoT, highlight how Africa's innovation ecosystem for telcos and startups drive adoption and what support is needed to scale. That will be in terms of investment policy or anything of that nature. And we hope we'll have a very honest conversation. Now, I'm going to spare my opening remarks and I'm going to go right into it. The first question is for Prof, but I think you already covered a bit of that. So I am going to move to Lucy Mbugua and ask, Cisco has a global visibility on what's working in different markets. What lessons or frameworks are useful for African governments designing scalable, secure IoT system? So leave alone all that big English. I just want you to sort of tell us, what is Cisco doing in this space? What exciting thing is Cisco doing in this exciting space, especially that is useful to African governments that are designing scalable IoT systems?
Okay, thank you for the question. So at Cisco, I think we are known for a lot of things. Key of them being that we powered the internet, given of how Cisco started with the first device being a router. So today, on the area of IoT, Cisco develops solutions, so devices, ruggedized equipment for harsh environments. It could be extreme heat, dust, extreme cold in snow environments, equipment that need to be immersed even in water up to 2 meters deep. So we do provide that sort of equipment. Also, wireless connectivity and ruggedized, both ruggedized and non-ruggedized equipment, because ideally we're looking at the carpeted areas as well as the non-carpeted areas. So that is the OT side. In addition to that, and especially looking into connectivity, we do understand connectivity is a backbone for any technology, and even for IoT, connectivity is very critical. Now, so in that area, we are also able to provide solutions that provide some of the emerging technologies for last mile connectivity. We do refer it to the Cisco Ultra Reliable Wireless Backhaul. So what that means is organizations do not need to really pull fiber all the way to certain areas. We can leverage off certain technologies to be able to provide connectivity. In addition to that, cybersecurity is a very critical piece of Cisco solutions. Cisco is one of the largest vendors in security. And what you're doing is, so we address security across multiple fronts. So, and we do have an organization known as Talos. A few of you may have heard about it. It's the largest non-governmental threat intelligence organization. So if you look at the breadth of what Cisco sees in terms of threats happening daily, so we do allow any customer running a Cisco solution, security solution, to submit what they see in their environments to Cisco Talos. They're able to evaluate that and then provide disposition. Is it good? Is it bad? And we see it once, say it's been seen at a certain location, say I don't know, somewhere in Europe. See it once, block everywhere. So that is how we're able to enforce security across any or Cisco, any organization running Cisco security solution. So we're also able to provide that. So we partner as well, because if you look at IoT is not just the network. We will power the network and bring it to life, but we partner with other ecosystem players, because if you look at the sensors, Cisco doesn't manufacture sensors. We do have a few of them, temperature, humidity, and the likes, mostly to monitor like data center environments. But if you look at some of the use cases around IoT, there are other vendors who are providing such devices, so sensors. So we are able to operate with them. If you look, operate together with them. If you look at things to do with healthcare, remote health monitoring, there are also some devices, some sensors that may be involved into that. So what we do is we are the neural network that pieces all these things together to facilitate that communication. So in a nutshell, that's what we're doing around IoT.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Lucy. Yes, for that that insightful breakdown in terms of what solutions Cisco provides in IoT. I want to ask a question. What makes IoT infrastructure resilient? And I'm going to ask this. I'm going to jump Saleh, and I'm going to come back to him, but I'm going to ask Alan. In your role, in your capacity in Safaricom, and by the way, before this session, I was mentioning to Sang that you single-handedly hold the most amount of data, if it can be quantifiable, in this country. I think in the region, when you kind of look at how granular, how you collect granular data from Safaricom. Telcos play a critical role in the ecosystem, in the digital ecosystem. Specifically in IoT, I think Safaricom stands a great chance to play an even more significant role. How are you designing platforms or partnerships that make IoT more accessible for public and private users? Ali, we were talking about, well, it's well and good if you can work with the government to make some of these service provisions, more seamless, give citizenry more value. But in terms of use cases, I'm more interested in the private sector. Going into the future, probably it's something that you have in the works. How are you looking at this, and how are you looking at being a critical player, in the IoT infrastructure or in the smart city that the country is trying to build?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think I'll start with mentioning that telco can be seen as a platform. So it's an enabler for the IoT use cases. What do I mean by that? Telco as a platform means it enables the IoT use cases that we experience and see on an everyday to give us a desirable outcome of what we need. And to begin with, you have the enabling infrastructure, and this is the digital infrastructure that then powers the IoT sensors, that enables the sensors to communicate with one another, that enables the sensors to securely transmit the data, and then collectively use the data, model it in such a way that we can be able to showcase a desirable outcome. So one use case would be see a telco or a technology provider as an enabler that gives us modular and scalable platforms that then makes the IoT use cases be realistic. And what you observe today, let's say in a smart city, you have a smart transport system that manages the traffic lights or the movement of vehicles. Or in a utility, for example, an energy farm like Kenya Power or even a Kengen generating power, we want to see efficient use and transmission of power. A utility like a water body, for example, would be keen to see how water is not wasted. We convert the non-revenue water into something useful. And for a user, who could be a citizen, would be more concerned about availability of the water. Now, telco and the telco platform gives that efficiency and enabling factor that then empowers the IoT sensors to play so that the end result can be realized. The second one is on security. Of course, we all want to feel safe. Think of the smart home fitted with smart cameras. You want to monitor remotely, and you wonder where the data is going. So how do we ensure that there is security as we enable these platforms to transmit data from one end to the other? So the technology platform or the telco would then play a critical role in ensuring that there's security in terms of how data is handled, right from the device layer where you have, and I think my good friend talked about manufacturing devices that are not only rugged for physical security, but also robust in terms of how security has been embedded into the device itself. How the protocols are standardized in transmitting the data. So in IoT, you want to make sure that this data is secure and it gets to the intended end application or server. And then on the upper layers where you have the data itself that has been generated, how do you make sure that this data is fully anonymized? The data is compliant with the regulatory act. The data can only be used for its function. So security is one critical area that the telco then provides. Then on your second part on partnerships, we see ourselves as an enabling ecosystem player because we need each other to be able to work. So from a connectivity space, for example, Safaricom plays by providing the SIM connectivity that you see. But then businesses behind, or the public sector behind it, will use this connectivity service to be able to power the IoT use cases that will run. Another use case would be how we work together with startups and small firms to be able to work in a business model that then enables the IoT use case to run. Thank you.
Yeah, precisely. That is yes. Yes, that's what we were discussing earlier. You guys know the issue of Safaricom of you go to them with an idea, and then what happens next? The rest is history, right? We all know, right? So Alan is assuring us that is changing, and we are going to hold you up to that because in reality, Safaricom is supposed to be an ecosystem enabler because you, as I've said, you can play a critical role even in enabling startups that are doing different innovations into the next gen technology that you can then provide with the data that they need, of course, anonymously, that to enable their systems to function or to move from pilot to actually operationalization. Now, I'm going to engage, I'm going to jump Airtel. Don't want them back to back. I want to separate them. So I'm going to go to our lovely lady, and I'm going to ask you, Agnes. You work on last mile infrastructure. You said you're called Mama Fiber. Yes? And what role do you see for local innovators and startups in extending IoT value where formal infrastructure is weak? And this sounds like a close question, but I'd love you to kind of drive it in a direction that makes sense to this conversation.
Thank you so much, Evelyn. So I think riding on even what has been mentioned before by Prof, as we talk about smart cities, how do we also talk about smart villages? Like we don't leave it behind, doing catch up a lot later than the rest of the country. And that's why actually, like as Vilcom, we play that role, trying to make sure that we have access to infrastructure, high-speed internet, in urban and peri-urban areas, so that as we layer in now all these other technologies, all these other smart things that we are talking about, we actually don't leave all these other counties that look so far away from us behind. So when you're talking about IoT, definitely I think infrastructure is the first layer that you need to have. You have to have very good connectivity, and not just accessing it, but also affordable and reliable. And so that needs to be the first infrastructure that we need to have in place. And the next thing now is the right platforms to be able to, like, you've already put the infrastructure, you've already put now the devices. And as our friend from HPE had mentioned, that our phones are the biggest devices for IoT. How do we now gather all this information that is there, aggregate it, and make sure we are able to analyze and now make sense about it? So I think the next thing that needs to be actually put up and set up very well is that, the platform now to do all this aggregation and to be able now to analyze this data and use it. So basically, in a way, IoT is part of the ecosystem. As we talk about all these emerging technologies, it cannot stand alone. It has to feed into data analytics, data science. It needs to feed in. As you collect so much information, you cannot just analyze, but you need to really make sense about it. It speaks now to what we're talking about, AI, to help us to actually see and build a lot of use machine learning to build use cases for that we are actually picking. So a use case, therefore, when you talk about startups and what innovations can happen, I think I normally approach these from like looking at a very simple, stupid way of doing things, without thinking very complex about it. The problems that we have, like when you talk about Kenya, I think it is known world over that we struggle with probably traffic and even parking. I happened to have gone to Korea one time and I saw a solution for parking issues. And I think we will all appreciate that most of our towns were already built. We're not as lucky as Konza, which is starting right from the word go and building the infrastructure right and making it smart. But what do we do now to other urban areas that have already been built and we feel like they need to be smart? So they had a solution actually where you just input a sensor on the parking lot, but it is very rugged, and I guess that's where Cisco and the like now come in, such that if a car steps on it, it will still be okay. But you will now be able to tell, like the case in Nairobi, you want to park on Kenyatta Avenue, you have to like go round all the streets, trying to imagine where you will get parking, ask the parking boys to help you. But imagine a scenario where as you entered, there is a screen actually that is showing you that on Moi Avenue, there are still 4 parkings and you will be able to get them without, building a lot of infrastructure, but just putting in a sensor that now feeds back and will be able to see and actually, and the other thing is the monetary value from it. Now the county governments will be able to actually know how many cars have parked, and the revenue collection, revenue leakages will be a thing of the past. So what does it take to actually be able to do that, therefore? I think I was able to just ask the cost, and it was a venture I wouldn't have wanted to go into. So it calls now for creativity and innovation in terms of why can't we actually make those devices ourselves here? I think that is something I'm still carrying with me, because it looks a very usable use case, but now the barrier in terms of actually getting the devices and be able to deploy, because it will be thousands, depending on the number of parking lots that we currently have. And therefore, how do we cross that bridge and be able to actually get it implemented by now being creative and getting the devices, even homegrown, built here in Kenya, to be deployed? I think I normally see another scenario, which probably we normally don't think as if it is an IoT kind. For a long time, I think before maybe the expressway, there used to be a group of people, I think it is still there, it's called Mathiri Route. So it actually sources information on how traffic is within Nairobi. I think it is such problems and solutions that we need actually to be able to think and now take it to the next level. Should it have been just maybe a Twitter handle, or should it have been an app? And now even make it a bit structured and see how to even monetize so that it's sustainable, as it has been said. So I think we already have a lot of use cases. We just need to structure it, put it together, so that we just keep improving our lives and solve the problems that we currently have. So I think I learned my submission there for now.
No, let's clap for her. And like I was saying, like I was discussing with Alan earlier, you have just, I hope you patented that idea, because some of us have picked it and are. Anybody else picking ideas? Yeah. If it's interesting, try build it and then come see me behind the tent if it works. Yeah. So I'm really curious about, what Airtel thinks about IoT. And disclaimer: we have we have the PayPal mafia here. We have 4 of us ex Safaricoms. We were just talking about Safaricom being the mafia of the country. If you are in tech and you didn't pass at some point at Safaricom, even if you run an M-Pesa shop, si bado ulikuwa Safaricom. Yeah, so so all of us are that product. Prof, even you, we can adopt you. So now, for Airtel, you serve a wide demographic, right? How are you seeing IoT intersect with inclusive access, affordability, or SME empowerment? I know, unlike your sibling, your rival sibling Safaricom, you're not very loud in the things you do. You're the quiet one, but I believe you do a lot in the background. Apart from those very nice Gen Z ads that I see on YouTube. Tell us, what are you guys working on in this space, and what is Airtel thinking about going into the future in this space?
Much better.
Yeah.
Good. Thanks, Evelyn. I think panelists have sort of triggered my mind about a couple of things, and also some of the things I was thinking that we could discuss. They've done a fantastic job in addressing them, but just a couple of things that are happening within Airtel. Number one, Airtel is in Africa, because you have Airtel Africa. It's organized in 3 clusters. So there's an East African cluster where Kenya is part of: Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Malawi, and Zambia. And then you have an Anglophone cluster that starts from DRC, Gabon, Chad, Niger, and Madagascar and Seychelles. And then you have one big one called Nigeria. So really exciting times for Airtel in Africa. Precisely more to Kenya. We've been going through significant investments over the last 4 years. The base stations that we have currently serving the country have grown from just about 1,700 to 4,300 as of last month. All of them 4G enabled, and about almost 1,000 5G enabled. Why I say this is because for IoT to thrive, you need a strong enabling infrastructure.
I think what he's trying to say in a good way is, when you go up country, don't switch to green. You will find service. That's what he's trying to say. Alan, your socks.
He probably has one that he uses when he's up country. So, and what have we seen over the last 1 year? The number of IoT SIM cards that we've engaged with customers and provided to the market have grown 3 times, which tells us there's a big appetite for IoT use cases. So, and they're in 3 main areas: transport. And transport is interesting because we're able to offer seamless connectivity across the region. So if you're an SME, to your question around SMEs, and you have a trucking company, and you have a contract to supply goods into DRC or Zambia, you can have very affordable, really affordable packages that enables you for your trucks to operate seamlessly within the region. So we are really, really excited about the future of IoT. So, for me, what is more interesting is not the fact that we can be able to provide great connectivity, and of course, when we combine with Vilcom, Safaricom, and others, this country has really decent infrastructure, enabling infrastructure for IoT. But I think what is more interesting is what you build above that. And I think Agnes alluded to some of those interesting things. I recently sat with, had a meeting with a CEO of a Noel company, and is desperately wanting to have a conversation around a problem. So we went and have a discussion, and he says, you know what? I have over 5 million gas cylinders, and half of them disappear. They go into the gray market. What solutions can you give me to be able to track these gas cylinders? And this is a challenge to the tech community. We need to start building solutions that address African problems. Some of those problems, some of those solutions will not come from Europe because they don't have that problem. They have piped gas. They are the ones who have to deal with gas cylinders, okay? And I can almost bet you whoever comes up with a solution that takes care of that problem.
Again, you had another idea, right? So this room, we are buzzing with ideas, right? And I've said, if you try it, if it works, see me behind the tent.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what is interesting is, and I know a lot of people have tried to come up with a solution to this problem, but then they run into a problem one, battery, because you need a device that sticks onto the gas cylinder that has to be robust. Again, to the Cisco discussion, robust. The battery must be able to at least last 5 years. Then it must. You also have to take care of safety standards around issues of gas and sparks. So I know a couple of people who are trying to think about that idea, but it will solve a couple. And just imagine a situation whereby that problem has been addressed. So it's not just about the fact that they will be able to track where the cylinders are, and they find them on a dashboard to be concentrated somewhere. Let me just say, Githurai, you will know there's an illegal filling station somewhere there. So you can trigger the law enforcement to go and address the issue. But I think more interesting, and this is from the marketing director, what he said, you know what? That's just part of the problem. The other thing is that it also starts triggering an interesting commercial conversation. If you know where your customer stays, and assuming you operate within the guidelines of good data protection, if Evelyn has not come back, brought the cylinder has not come back into the system after 3 months, because the turnaround is about 3 months before you go and refill your gas cylinder, you can send a message, Evelyn, we have not seen you for a while. Is everything okay? Power of IoT. So you also try and you can give incentives to your customers. If you find a customer has been with you for a year, tell them, next time you come, you refill at half price. So some of those are some of the interesting ideas. African solutions for African problems. That I find to be very interesting and sustainable, to Professor's earlier comment, because you have a lot of interesting fancy IoT ideas, but they die off very quickly. Why? Because the commercial models was not sustainable. So really, for me, really exciting times matters IoT. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we didn't clap for him. Yes. You agree we are getting some very good gems here, right? And just to kind of allude to your point before I go to Saleh, I think it's high time, and I wish this was a startup session. It's high time we start thinking about real world problems and reverse engineer them. Alan, the way we were talking about, it's not that, we want to, do another Uber for Kenya. Let's do this, another Uber for Kenya or another Glovo. Let's think about real use cases that have the opportunity to actually be sustainable and generate us revenue. And IoT, like Saleh, you said, is an interconnected system that is powering the digital economy. It's not a thing. right? It's not a thing. It's all the things that are using connectivity to speak to each other and to, to improve livelihoods. And I'm going to go to you now, specifically on that, and ask you. Many governments struggle with fragmented systems. From your experience working with governments across Africa and EMEA, how do we design IoT architecture that can evolve, integrate, and remain useful long term? And may I add, be safe?
Yeah, it's a very good point. So if you want to transform the ecosystem to enable IoT from the ground up, it will take you ages. So the best approach basically is how we can provide a data layer that's immersive in a way that it accepts any data format from any data source. And then this will be our source of truth for everything else. Now, this data layer will be the core of any use case for IoT will connect to and won't force you to change things below. Because and it won't force you to change things below. The reason why, when you talk about government services, this has been created since ages. And if you want to create an IoT service, and before you do that, you look into the systems below and fix them, it will take you a long time to reach in a state where this is stable. So as long as the systems are stable today and they provide the right information on the right data set that we need, then all what I need is a data layer, a data gateway, and then from that gateway, what's the application that sit on top of it. Now, taking these applications, what really matters about the application is the end user perspective of the application. So whatever service you create, it's not intuitive, it's not easy to use, no one will use it. And we had a case with one of the companies in a different continent where they spend millions of dollars, $80 million, in creating a super app. This super app was designed to have chat services, government services, payment services, everything from a single application. And the population that is used to use this application expected was in millions. The guys, after 3 years launch, they have 60,000 users. So they shut down the whole business. The reason why, they didn't get a perspective, what's the culture effect on such digitization? So it's not about the technology itself, it's also technology, the people, the process, and how to make it intuitive in a way that people will, as the professor mentioned, how to create a place where people will rush to, not we will ask them to come to. Thank you.
Let's clap for him. And Saleh, I think you have so much to say in this space. I think we'll have another gathering to sort of speak about this and really
Sure.
really break it down. Prof, my dearest Prof, a question for you. And I'm trying to find a way of asking you this question in a way that we will go home today. Prof, Konza is often called or cited as a case study for a smart city design, right? Across Africa. And that is the truth. What are the most promising applications of IoT that are currently improving real world infrastructure in Konza that you think might be applicable across the country or across the continent? You mentioned about the waste management system. You also mentioned about a couple of other IoT applications in the city. What are other things you think can be applicable in other villages and other cities?
Yeah, I indicated. Okay. Yeah, I indicated that there are several things. Perhaps I think I indicated safety. For me, it's extremely important, especially the sensors. The other one is to ensure that you have appropriate infrastructure. And Konza has one of the best infrastructures so far in this country. Some of the best infrastructure facilities in terms of roads and so forth, and waste disposal. The other one is greening. And that to me is extremely important. And that is why the Timbuktu Green Hub, Green Technology Hub, has been established at Konza. So it is issue of safety, issue of ensuring that people are compliant with regard to places, parking for vehicles, so that there are places for parking vehicles, there are places for walkways. And the other one is to ensure that within a comprehensive smart city, then you have specifically designated areas, residences, others for thought, others for playing. So to me, those are some of the things that we believe can be cascaded and they can transform. And of course, the issue of ensuring that the services that you need are easily available. The health facilities, they used to call it, and they still do call it, telemedicine. So that if you are suffering from anything, then a doctor, even in India or in Egypt, can actually do an operation using medicine. So those are some of the things that I believe are doing. They can be done. Ensuring that, of course, we don't waste energy. Sometimes, you find lights are lighting everywhere and so on, but there is nobody moving. So if you are leaving your house, you have to switch off. Really, in Konza, what we are thinking about, and please, Josephine, this is very important. Let's not put control. Let's put sensors so that as you enter, lights come up. As you leave or you go to bed, the light goes off. So forth. So those are some of the things thinking about.
Really clap for him. I really wish they plot out our cities better, because in even some of our most affluent neighborhoods don't have walkways, right? So I think it will be very interesting to see how they rethink that. Now, 1 minute for each of us to close, and I would really like for us to touch on what role does cybersecurity play in building a sustainable, not sustainable, but resilient smart infrastructure? Or how can government, how can public sector and private sector support in building a resilient and safe, smart infrastructure? I will start with you. So as we close, also let's just mention, because I do not think that a smart city would work without proper systems in place to protect that ecosystem. And it's such a shame that cybersecurity is always an afterthought. But then I think it plays a critical role to instill trust in the public to be able to confidently use the infrastructure that is being built. For example, if eCitizen was not safe, if you hear, or this platform you're using is not safe, you wouldn't use it. For example, if M-Pesa was not safe, you wouldn't use it, right? So you use M-Pesa by the virtue that if you send money to a wrong person, it will be reversed. If somebody removed your money from your account and you didn't give them a PIN, it will be reimbursed. So how do we create that safety? Over to you, Lucy, then we do around.
Okay, thank you for that question. So, as you mentioned, cybersecurity should not be an afterthought. We should plug in cybersecurity from the ground up. I'll give an example. Maybe some of you have already heard about it, but there's the US Colonial Pipeline. There was a ransomware attack that happened on it. So this is a pipeline that allows them to transport gas from West Coast to East Coast. And when that attack happened, they interfered with a valve. So the Eastern Coast couldn't get fuel. And this is in 2021. It's in the public domain. So what happened? They were asking for money. President Biden had to declare a state of emergency, because then now they had to find alternative routes to transport the fuel, the trucks now on the roads. So that just shows an example of what would happen if we do not embed security from the ground up, because there's so many moving parts in IoT systems, and that's a challenge. So many solutions and systems and devices that we need to integrate together. So that means it builds a lot of complexity around it. And in cybersecurity, we say you cannot protect yourself from what you cannot see. So you need to be able to have visibility into what's happening for you to be able to enforce security. So for critical national infrastructure, There's no going back about it. Security has to be considered from the ground up. And so it could be from simple things, because looking at all these moving parts, how are there policies in place to track things like software updates and upgrades? Because most of the malicious people, they take advantage of some vulnerabilities in especially in legacy system, things that you don't really focus a lot on, take advantage of that vulnerability, and they bring down entire systems. So that is a very critical piece. And then secondly, there's a lot of data that is being collected, and it could be even personal data. If you look at healthcare, so how do we have policies in place to ensure security, data privacy? That's a very critical piece. So, so there are different ways to look at it. And as I mentioned, security is addressed in so many places, from access, if you look into the network environment, and we even go a step further into looking in anomalies. It could be a compromise is happening and data exfiltration is happening. So do we have visibility or controls in place to ensure that we can detect there is an anomaly? There's too much data being sent from this location to location X. That is an anomaly, and have automated remediation of that. And then to my last point, threat detection and incident response is a critical piece, because it's you can be compromised anytime. So when that happens, what is the next step of actions that need to be taken to ensure that we are not bringing the country into a standstill, to ensure that there is operations that will continue and we can go back as quickly as possible, take the learnings from what has happened, recover from it, and have things in operation.
Just to add on the cybersecurity space and how we can build secure systems, especially for IoT, I'll start with the standards. So we should ensure that we have standards that are interoperable and right from the devices. So how are devices built to have certain protocols in place that then ensure security by design? In IoT, we have things like MQTT, we have CoAP, that then each of the devices needs to follow. In cybersecurity, we have a term called zero trust. We need to authenticate each device connecting to the platform so that we don't have a scenario where we have a breach that then compromises the whole system. So it means that zero trust we implement at the level of each device so that there's authentication before they're connecting and transmitting data. On the upper layers, network security, the normal standards. So we follow the standards all the way until the applications. The second and most important thing for me as I close is, how do we involve the user, the citizen, in ensuring that they have consent of the data that is being collected for cybersecurity or IoT use cases? When we do that, and my colleague Agnes talked about crowdsourcing, we're able to get insights that will help us enrich the system and continuously improve on cybersecurity. So ensure that the user and the citizen in this place, from a public sector perspective, is involved right from the word go to consent on how the data is being used after the data has been collected for the IoT use cases. Thank you.
Okay. Just maybe giving us an analogy for security. I think it is like what everybody else has mentioned. As we start off, we just need to consider security. I'll give an example of when you're building your house, you are giving access to yourself. Okay, you're going to stay in the house, but you're also going to build windows, have doors to be able to access the house and people to come in. But you always have to think of security every single time. If it is putting in grills, putting in a metal door, putting in now the locks and all that. So I think in everything that we are going to do, we have to think about the next, like you're giving access, you're aggregating data. So how do you ensure that all this ends up in the right hands, not in the wrong hands, so that it is not misused? I think as a parting shot for me as well is, I think for us to stop talking about IoT just as a trial and as a pilot and as like something to come, it's important for us to start where we are. I think we have already a lot of use cases. It's just putting them together and keep going and keep building now from there instead of waiting for that perfect time when we are saying everything is now set and we need to go. So let's start small. An example that I think we can actually see how to aggregate better is like we have a lot of CCTV cameras ourselves in our spaces, in our offices, public spaces, in our estates. How can we be able to put all those cameras maybe into one view? Let's say a government, the National Police Service view with a command center, and we just layer in now AI and face recognition so that in a sense, it will feel as if you have actually a policeman in your gate all the time because it is being monitored from a very central place, and they can be able to tell actually what movements have happened now with the help of AI and all that. So I think instead of waiting for the government to put up all these thousands of cameras, we could also start with the cameras that we have already input in our offices and just keep going and build from there.
The only challenge there is the data protection and that access being used for malicious use. But another forum for us to get into that, I see he's a smiling, probably has an encounter. Go ahead.
No, I'm just smiling because just in the exhibition area, one of my colleagues there, Lamek and Preston, we and Lucy will be happy to hear this. We are a Cisco managed services provider globally, and we have certain capabilities that we are bringing into this market. And I wouldn't be a good salesperson if I don't mention nice stuff that we have. But I think the most important thing is that we are making some of these cybersecurity solutions very affordable. And I think you mentioned earlier that we don't talk too loudly about the good things that we are doing. One of the, I think, best kept secret, the best kept secret is the security platforms and solutions on the Cisco platform that we have brought into this market, completely on an OPEX model. We just go and deploy, the customer pays slowly as over a period of 3 years, which is unusual in this part of the world. Typically, most people would require that you pay upfront. But I think more interesting to Agnes's point, Lamek there, when we were having this discussion, very interesting yesterday, training, the cameras, using machine learning and AI to do certain interesting things that customers have been asking for us. Interesting, one of the Samuel marketer was asking us, I want to know how many times cars that come to fuel are opened, the bonnets are open. Number plate recognition. How many visitors have walked into the shop? So Lamek and team are able to train these cameras consistently to be able to provide this data that Agnes is alluding to. So if you have some time, just walk to our stand, the Airtel stand on the exhibition area. Lamek is doing some really cool stuff that you can see there. Thanks.
My point to that, also work with the private sector to be able to outsource some of this to you. Let the money circulate.
Absolutely.
Sawa. Okay. Another solution. I think you guys will pay me for this advisory. Okay.
So what we look at when we have these kind of systems on cybersecurity, as mentioned by the gentleman here, is zero trust from the point that data enters to the platform all the way to the data processed and in transit. Now, what we also think about is if things goes wrong, so we can add all kind of security measures in any system. But in some cases, in disasters situations, in some, let's say, bad situations, things go down. What we think about is how we bring things up quickly. So part of the day two, let's say, solution is when things go down, how much time I need to bring things up. So what we try to achieve in HPE is how we can minimize this downtime to the minimum. So we do have within the Aruba ecosystem our own central ecosystem platform. And if you pass by our booth here, you will see all of these demos the guys are working on, but also how we can recover this environment quickly. With our technology through observability, through OpsRamp, or through Zerto as a recovery platform, we look into how we can recover things, but also we see from the Aruba ecosystem how we can identify the signature of the device that's connected. If we find anomalies in connectivity, anomaly in devices, some malicious kind of interactions, the platform will lock in that connectivity of that device and report it immediately. So it will react, then it will report, not the other way around. Now, and this is a critical because when you connect to millions of systems in a city environment, if any of them become a vulnerability, the city will be invulnerable. That's public security issue. It's beyond IT services and beyond cybersecurity. So we think about it from that perspective, and then we move backward to find a solution. Now, the other aspect of data management. So when we do data and CCTV as example, or we look into personal information that is shared with hospitals, we want to find a way that the community accept to share some of these data based on what they understand of what the data will do for them. And we wanted to do that in a momentarily specific time frame. And the reason why, I don't want to share all my data all the time. I want to make sure that I can share what I need at that time frame and with my own approval. This will relieve the burden from the government that they have to control everything. It's my responsibility, it's my data. So when we give you that kind of capability as an individual, you don't come and blame us as a government because you misuse it or someone else misuse it. You already accepted this kind of place. As a government, we make sure we put legislations, rules, regulations to control that. But at the end, you have to give some sort of control on this data access. Thank you.
Fantastic, fantastic. Please clap, please. Hey. Oh, Prof, today I've given you exercise. You know that picking and that's hand exercise, right? Yeah, acceptable. Now, Prof, you saved the best for last. What are your parting shots in terms of secure IoT systems in 30 seconds? I've heard there's a very nice dinner with the theme. I think you're already dressing for it. You need something white. I can give you, yes. Yes. It's blue and white? White and blue? You're already wearing blue?
Yeah, I had a meeting.
You'd been told. So you're good to go. Where's the white? This one. Okay. Okay. No, well done. So we don't. Do we have any time to go to the audience? Audience. Okay. So there's dinner at 8. But do you want to ask any question? No. Can we give just one person? What? Just one person, and be brief, like 2 seconds. Ooh.
Oh, thank you. To the telcos. What is your future projections in terms of the eSIM so that at least we can have auto negotiation? Because at some point, the green flag flies higher. At some point, the red flag flies higher. And then generally to the panelists, there are certain mitigation strategies that at least could be put into effect, because some of these solutions that we are talking about, we could as well play the devil's advocate and have the side effects. So kindly elaborate on some of the mitigation strategies so that we minimize on the threat vulnerability assessment impacts. Thank you.
Yeah, very quick.
Yeah, let me take. Yeah, so you asked a question around eSIM, and you also said, how do we mitigate certain threats that come alongside? Okay, so let me start with the first one. So today, Safaricom, we offer eSIM, but to the extent of the normal mobile use cases, we of course working with OEMs around enabling device capability for eSIM, especially for IoT. Because you would recall that IoT devices or sensors, the way they are manufactured, they are only manufactured for that function. Okay, which could be a sensing point, and then the use case also drives how the device has been created. For example, if you're designing a sensor or a smart water meter, for example, you would want that meter to be installed where there is no power, so you just have a battery. So the features that you put on the device may not allow the eSIM to be installed, because then eSIM requires more compute power, application capability, etc. But for certain use cases, like if you're talking about smart transport, driverless cars, etc., that already is supported. Okay. Now, there is one item around vulnerability that comes with a given technology. So as I said before, we would work to support standards, for example, around encryptions on the network layer. On the devices, we make sure that devices are actually adopting to the security standard that we need to have. The third one is what we are now implementing. We call it edge computing. So edge computing is we manage the processing of data at the edge. And then with the inherent security features that are applied at that particular level, then you're able to manage the threat that could be exposed, so that by the time you're transmitting data, it is the normal data transmission that we do, which is already secure. So those are some of the mitigations that we put in place. Some of them have been done where the use cases are actually available. We look forward to a time where everything is more easy to do, like the power of eSIM, for example. When it comes to scalability and rollout is quite enormous. But we'd work closely with the OEMs so that we can be able to at least create certain use cases that then fit in that particular space. But in terms of support, I think the technology is here and we're already here.
So yeah, we need to clap for that as we close. Our timekeeper here. If you were this keen on timekeeping with the other group, would have had more time. Now we are chasing dinner. Huh? Now we are chasing dinner. We don't have much time. Prof has not finished expressing himself. And my very able team here. You know, when you sit with the blue and green, you don't cry about dinner, because I said dinner can be on the house and wine. This is all checkbooks. What's your problem? Safaricom, and we have HP, and we have Cisco, and we have Prof here as well, and we have Konza. Konza munapatiananga pesa ama ni nini tu? Ni memes.
No, we give. And if you know how much,
Now is this nice? So guys, sorry, we have been cut off for time, but this was an interesting conversation. You agree? We should have had more time. You agree? So next time they give us more time, you agree? Fantastic. So a round of applause for my panel. And feel free to see them behind the tent or trace them at the dinner. And you are a lovely audience. Normally, I like engaging the audience, but we don't have time. So next time, or we meet in Nairobi at a more relaxed space, then we can talk some more, right? Because we're going to take some photos, but as we take some photos, I'd like for somebody unaffiliated to any of us, just say why they came into this session. We take photos. So just one person not affiliated to any of us. You. You? Hi. Yes. Why did you come to this session?
I'm called Charity, and I'm a board member of the Uganda Communications Commission. So I came to this session to see how we back home in Uganda can learn about IoT, what is being done within Kenya, and how I can go back and be able to implement some of these solutions and share this information with my people back home. I'm also an academician, so this works really well for me as well. A lot. Actually, I finished school quite a number of years ago, and I've been in administration. I'm an electrical engineer by training. So I'm racking my brain and saying, I need to go back and get back into my technology roots. And yes, so I can really be up to speed instead of just being at my desk, doing admin work. Yeah.
all of you can finish.